Okay, so I'll be going over the Claude Code updates of last week. Firstly, you want to make sure you're on the right version, so you need to be on 0.88 or greater. So you can write Claude -- version, and you can see it over here. I'm on 0.89, and you can write Claude updates if you're not on the same version as me. I'm not sure what they changed between 0.88 and 0.89 because they haven't added it to changelog, but we'll see. The main thing they did in this update is they fixed some error tracking, usage tracking in /cost. So if you're using the API, then you can write /cost, and then you can see how much cost you've taken up or used so far. I'm using the Claude Max plan, so I don't have to worry about that, but I can see my own cost here using the CC usage status line, which if you don't have installed, you can download by writing CC usage status line and then finding on GitHub. It should be linked down below as well. And it should look something like this. Something else you can do is set environment variables for these two over here. So if you write /model, for example, then you should see it says default for up to 50% of usage, depending on your plan, or Opus or Sonnet, or Opus plan mode, which will use Opus in that particular plan mode. If for some reason you want to switch out the model for an older model or a model from a different provider, if you change your base URL as well, then you can do that over here. So I can go back to Claude Opus 4.0 for the Opus model, and then go back to Sonnet 3.7, for example, for the Sonnet model over here. And then I can press enter, and then I can run Claude. And now I'm using some of the older models. And you can see that over here on the status line because it now says Opus 4 instead of Opus 4.1, which I said earlier. I think this is probably more useful for if you're using models from a different provider, but in that case, you would have to change the base URL as well. I'm not sure what they add in 8.7 over here because there's a bit of a gap, so maybe it's nothing important. The next thing you can do is you can write /context, so you can actually see the context that's being used so far. I have a Claude session that just ran over here, and I can write /context over here, and then I should be able to see it's used this amount of messages in the message context, this amount of memory files, this amount of system tools, and the system prompt is about 3,000 tokens, and this is how much free space I have left. So that can be useful if you're like debugging context related issues. It can especially be useful in case like you've filled your entire memory up with different MCP tools or something, and you can know the effect of that because some people like to do that for some reason. They have like 50,000 tokens of MCP tools, for example. But yeah, I think this design over here is pretty cool. In 8.5 here, they included session cost info in the status line. So I usually prefer to use CC usage's status line, but if you prefer making your own status line, then you can do status line. And then you can say include how much I've used a session, for example, the cost information, and then it will make you a custom status line based on that. They also fixed some bugs over here. With the @mention, they now include the .claude folder in your home directory. So if you write .claude over here @.claude, then you can see user/array.claude, and the other .claude is the one in the project folder. So you can see the output styles that I added before and so forth. They made it so that ripgrep is used by default instead of grep. So ripgrep is a faster version of grep, which basically means that if you have a really large codebase, then you should notice some performance improvements when Claude is searching throughout the codebase to find relevant things. And you can opt out of that behavior by using this command before running Claude Code or putting that in your environment variables. They also made it so that @mention supports files with spaces in the path. And I don't think that should matter for a lot of programmers because programmers usually don't have spaces in the path. But for other people, it may matter more if you're using Claude Code for something else. So you can write and then you can write speech mark over here. And then you can write something with a space in the name. So you can write test1. And you can see I have test1.2, which is a folder, and test1.2.3, which is a file. Both have spaces in them. They also added a new Shimmering spinner, and that basically means the star over here, you can see it's moving left and right and getting bigger and smaller. I don't know if you remember, but the previous star basically only got bigger and smaller rather than moving left and right as well. And that's basically everything that they explicitly mentioned. Also, Claude 4 Sonnet did introduce a 1 million token context window, so some people are wondering when it's going to be available in Claude Code. And it seems that it's rolling out slowly. So for example, this user now sees it in their /model. So if they run /model, they can see it says default Sonnet with 1 million token context. And they have a video proof of it actually like appearing when they run /model over here. I still don't see the option, but I don't think this will be a big issue for many people. It's still about ensuring your context window does not get polluted, even though you can have longer chats. If you're working on many different features within the same chat, for example, then you can have many different distractors in your context window that can reduce the model's performance. And if you are interested in learning more about what I just said, then you can watch my previous video about Claude's new context window, and that should be linked down below. But if you are really keen to try the new context window, then Cursor does support it with CloudForce on it, and you can also use a Cursor CLI if you want a more CLI experience for it. Another thing related to Claude Code is that DeepSeek drops another model, DeepSeek V3.1, and they say it's better at multi-step agent tasks, which means that it's going to be better at coding. And they actually made an Anthropic API endpoint, which means that you can now use DeepSeek in Claude Code and benefit from all the features that Claude Code has available, but using DeepSeek. And I go through how to do this in my previous video. It should be linked above somewhere right now, and also down below in the description. Another relevant thing for Claude Code is that Salesforce AI Research came out with a new paper 2 days ago introducing MCP-Universe, which is a brand new benchmark to evaluate LLMs in realistic and hard tasks through interactions with real-world MCP servers. And you can scroll down and see the results and read through the paper as well. But basically, GPT-5 comes out on top across all these different categories, and the scores are pretty low because these are pretty hard tasks. And of course, they don't have coding as a benchmark over here, but you can see that Claude for Sonnet performs pretty badly when it comes to web searching. And I found that to be the case myself when I get Claude Code to do any web searching through the web tool that it has available, or to use a Twably MCP server to find information online. Then it performs pretty badly compared to when I use GPT-5 in ChatGPT. So often what I do is I use ChatGPT with thinking mode on, and also the high setting, and also like web search enabled, to find information online or documentation or find an implementation for something. And then I pass that information back to Claude Code because GPT-5 is just better at web searching when you have the right settings. And you can use something like Ref Tools, which provides context. It's like Context 7 as well. And that is an MCP server, and it can find good documentation for you. But if you're looking at more like nuanced things or things that may not be in the documentation when it comes to like finding solutions to bugs that you're facing, then I think using GPT-5 will be a better approach than using the default search capabilities of Claude Code. A trend that has been happening in the last few weeks is that people have been running Claude Code in a VPS and having it go crazy and skipping permissions and basically just vibing with it. So you can do this yourself in a VPS like Hetzner. So if you sign up to Hetzner, you can get a VPS for $4 a month, not including tax. And you can use my referral code in the description down below to get $20 in cloud credits. That should be linked down below. So it's basically free if you sign up using that code. And basically you can make your own VPS over here. You can choose a region, you can set your SSH key, and then once it's set up, you can go inside your VPS, install npm, install Claude Code, and then after SSHing into your server, installing Node.js, installing npm, and then installing Claude Code as well, you can run this command over here, and then press enter, and then you can just set up Claude Code again. And because they can't really open the link in the browser, you have to click on this URL and then copy the code and then paste it back in over here. And then when it says Claude Code is running in bypass permissions mode, you can press the yes, I accept over here. Then you can say something like install Docker and Docker Compose and set up a LiveKit server for me with an Next.js video calling chat application attached to it. And then you can see how it performs on this like bigger task. And I think this is more for like playing around and having fun with it, and then basically seeing what the capabilities of different models are. Because you can also swap out the Anthropic models with models from other providers, and then you can have like two different VPSs, and you can see how they both like execute on these longer horizon tasks, which are more difficult as well, and you can get a feeling for like the raw behavior of it when you're not having to approve it every single time when it wants to do something. There have also been people who have been connecting Claude Code, which is running in a VPS or on their local laptop at home, to their phones as well, so they can use Claude Code on the go and then like keep track of anything that's happening. I may make a video about that as well. And yeah, it seems like Claude Code is underway. It installed Docker, Docker Compose. It's now setting up a front end as well for the application. But yeah, that's basically it for the video. I do go through the changelog every single week and talk about any new updates and also news surrounding the Claude Code community as well. So if you do enjoy that kind of stuff and you do want to see more of it, then do subscribe for that, because I will continue to do this until Claude Code is no longer relevant or it's replaced by something better or just anything else like that.